Hey there guys, I hope you've been enjoying Baldur's Gate 3 just as much as myself. I've been personally loving pretty much every second of it. So I thought today I would show you some simple mechanical tips for the game that I really wish I had known about 50 or so hours of gameplay ago. First up is a relatively simple one. It's pressing Alt to find items and show them visually on the map and kind of ground around you. If you're someone who's played the Divinity games, you're probably more familiar with this. I myself had played them, but it's very easy to forget these kinds of things coming into a totally new IP. It's always good to mention it so that you don't end up doing what I had done for the first 10 to 20 hours or so, where I just kind of searched around the rooms, pretty much hovering over every individual item, which you'll see in some of the videos that I've posted, where I spend probably 10 to 15 minutes scouring every individual object, trying to work out what it is. Definitely a pain. Really wish I had known that one sooner. The second mechanic is kind of a give and take. Some people will like it, some people won't. But it is the karmic dice in the options menu. What karmic dice essentially do, by my understanding, is try to break up your game by inducing it so that you don't have too many failures, but you also don't have endless successes. Karmic dice essentially kind of weight your dice so that if you are having, let's say, 5 successes, you're bound to eventually have some kind of failure. Try and induce a little bit of difficulty into your game. But it goes the other way. If you go into combat and end up having 5 failures, 5 DC screw-ups, all sorts of things like that, it will try and force a success down the line for you. So you can end up being in a situation where you are the worst lockpicking character, but you did it 5 times and, finally, a natural 20. I don't think that this is the worst thing for Baldur's Gate 3 to have, but for some people they don't like that it's not complete and total RNG, so if you don't like that, turn off karmic dice in the options menu and there you go, straight back to normal average dice. My third tip is another kind of Divinity to Baldur's Gate situation, where you may be surprised that there are a lot of doors and walls that you can actually break. There's a few doors, a few walls and things that are marked such as cracked wall or sturdy door, etc., which you can actually break. I didn't really think of this at first, as you'll find that a lot of damage types for these doors don't work. What you can do is examine the door and kind of go through what types it is immune to. Personally, so far, I've found that to break sturdy walls, you need force damage, bludgeoning, or radiant, which tend to always break them. But this is a good way of just kind of getting into areas that you maybe shouldn't have been able to, or otherwise kind of skirting around enemies and attacking them from other ways that Larian has decided to reward you for doing. A good example of this would be in the Goblin town in Act 1. You can actually go up and around the Goblin town, kind of come up from the top, and there is a cracked wall which you can blast very easily if you're a Warlock using Eldritch Blast. 2 smacks, force damage, the wall goes down, and you will be able to skirt past the drunk guards, go inside, and you will actually be on the rooftop rafters above one of the technically boss NPCs in the area. So if you want to kind of sneak attack or sneak into the goblin area, that might be a good way to do it. The next two I'm going to kind of do as one because they really sort of affect each other. So the first off is holding shifts, which will show you vision cones, and you can also hold shift or press shift and C, I believe, to do a group everyone in hide situation, which is pretty good if you're using Pass Without Trace, which I believe that Shadowheart gets as a Trickery Domain Cleric. So what holding shift will do is it will show you the vision cones of enemies. So if you're trying to take advantage of that opening volley, maybe trying to get out a Radiant Bolt, trying to get out some kind of early attack, maybe trying to disarm your opponent before the start of the fight, you want to hold shift and kind of monitor their movement pattern and see where you can set your party up in the best possible situation before their vision overlaps onto you. Following up from this, as the fifth mechanical tip, is switch into turn-based to make better use of stealth. Stealth in Baldur's Gate is pretty useful. You can definitely make use of it with some of the more dexterity-based characters who sneak around, trying to get an early attack on someone. But in the real-time mode, it's a little finicky. The best way to use it I've found so far is to click the switch into turn-based option, and then you can kind of direct your party individually. Then it will take an environment-based turn as the NPCs or actions in the environment happen, and then you get your party to go again. It's a little finicky. I'm not going to lie that stealth in Baldur's Gate hasn't been my favourite. It definitely could use some changes to make it a little bit better, but the turn-based variant makes stealth kind of usable, which I would say that so far, unless you're going solo with like a rogue or two rogues, it hasn't really felt that useful in terms of the real-time speed. It mostly just feels like it is a trap to end up getting your plate wearer or fighter caught out of stealth on their own and stuck in an immediate surprise action from the enemy. But to continue on from that, we have a sixth mechanical tip, which is the add to wares option, which you may find when you're picking up items or sorting around in your inventory. There isn't really like a quick sell option. The add to wares is basically that, I've found. Inventory management is one of those things that you really kind of have to fight with in these kinds of games. It will always be the case in role-playing games, but the wares option essentially allows you to spend a moment sorting through your inventory, add each of these items that you're just going to sell to this, to add to wares, and then there is a quick sell my wares option when you are talking to various kind of merchants and the like. It's a little bit more finicky than just a sell my junk kind of option that some games use, but I do find that on the whole it gets the job done. There'll be a lot of items in Baldur's Gate that you either aren't going to be able to use because you're not playing that kind of character, or the party members that you've chosen to invest into for their storyline won't be using them. I mean, D&D is a game where there are just a ton of magical items. You're going to sometimes find items for bards, find items for warlocks, and have no class that is going to be using them. So just add them to wares, sell them off, quick and done, very easy. If you are like me, you may be someone who just cannot resist going onto your barbarian or using Karlach and just picking up every damn sword, every piece of gear which might sell above 10, and being like, yep, snatch that up, sell that later. Adding them all to wares is a very quick way of just getting around that. Instead of having to press every individual item to the merchant, you just press the sell to wares option. It's very good. I recommend using it. Definitely not something that I've seen too many people talk about, so I thought I'd bring it up here. This last option is kind of mechanical. It's not necessarily a tip in terms of like gameplay and that, but what I would say is it's something that I feel like D&D players in particular that are coming into Baldur's Gate have struggled with doing. I've even seen friends of mine who have had issues playing multiplayer because people didn't want to do this. So, it's a very simple tip. Take advantage of long rests and short rests, guys. They're there, they're very easy to use. Honestly, the game seems to be built around you using it quite a lot and going back to the camp to communicate with the various members of your party or NPCs that you pick up. There are just situations where Baldur's Gate will throw at you a ton of problems and you can immediately long rest after or short rest. Sure, there are moments where doing so may be to your disadvantage. There can be scenarios where if you long rest too much, an NPC may die or something may happen. However, that isn't really the long and short of it. Most of the time, it's just better to do it. And I've heard horror stories of people playing multiplayer. This happened to a friend of mine, and they're playing, for example, a character that uses long rest kind of recovery, like a cleric, and the party refuses to long rest. So, you know, you're playing like a level 1, level 2 cleric, throwing out your spells, and then you spend an hour basically being only able to use cantrips or auto attack, while the rest of your friends are maybe playing warlocks or classes that are martial, and so it doesn't really affect them as much. They can go with just the potions or a short rest. Don't be like that. Take advantage of this. The game is definitely built around it. I know some people have been funny about it, but honestly, guys, it's not a big deal. Seriously recommend making use of long rests and short rests. It does feel weird if you're a D&D player, I know. It's very rare in which your DM is going to let you do this many long rests, and there are mechanics in which you can only do a certain amount per day, usually. I think it's like once every day for long rests, and maybe 2 or so short rests a day. I'm not sure exactly on it, but there are usually limiters. As far as I know, Baldur's Gate hasn't had that I've seen. Maybe it does. I've not used it that often, but honestly, you get so many supplies, so many opportunities to do this. you really are just kind of handicapping yourself for no reason if you don't make advantage of this. But that's been me. I just kind of wanted to put this together, a couple of useful things that I've learned that I didn't know and I've been told by friends or seen online. Thought maybe this might help a few people. If you found this useful, let me know. If there's something that I've maybe missed that you think really should be added into a video or that people just need to know, comment down below. Let me know. There's probably tons of things in this game, a huge expansive game like this that Larian has given us, that just goes without saying that few people have talked about so far. So post it. Let me know. There's probably a few more tips that I could put into another video, which I might do. I think I definitely want to talk about kind of the mentality going into Baldur's Gate, because there have been a ton of people who are going into it like it's Dungeons and Dragons, people going into it like it is a Bethesda game, and just kind of, you must do this, you must do that. I think that kind of warrants a video to talk about just the mindset of the game. But let me know, maybe you don't think that's useful, maybe there's something else that you want me to talk about. Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.